Hello, advanced algebra student. Here's another example of how this concept, solving with formulas, comes up in other places on the GED test. In this example, we're talking equations of lines. Let's see. It says the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line found on the GED formula sheet relates the slope, m, and the y-intercept, b, of a line containing the point xy. Use the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line to solve each of the following. Okay, those bold directions I included to just give you enough information to work this problem, even if you don't know much about lines. But this next part is what a problem would probably look like on the test. So a line contains the point -8, -11, and has a y-intercept, b, of -5. Solve for m, the slope of the line. Now, you don't have to know what formula to choose today because I told you. I told you what formula relates these things. It's the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. That would not necessarily be in the directions, however, on the GED. So if you have information about a line, you have some of the information, you don't have it all, this formula is very often helpful. Let's go find it on the formula sheet. So here we have the GED formula sheet. This is what you'll get when you're taking your math test. And if you come all the way down to the bottom under the algebra section, the first three formulas have to do with lines and slope. And one of them is nice, like this point slope form of the equation of a line is nice. It's another way to do a certain task, but really, if you only know these two, you can do everything you need to do with the formulas and lines based on those two. One of them you can see finds the slope of a line, m, but the other one is the formula we've been talking about, the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. And look what it relates. It relates a point xy, so a point always has two numbers, an x and a y, with a slope m and a y-intercept b. So make sure that you know what those letters stand for. Okay, so the xy is the values of a point. The m is the slope, which I know is weird, which is why I want to cover it with you today. And the b stands for the y-intercept. So mark up that formula sheet, you guys, so that as you're working here, you get used to this. Okay, now that we have our slope-intercept form of the equation of a line, we are going to, as always with formulas, put in the information we know and use it to solve for the information we don't know. So it says a line contains the point -8, -11, and I told you that was your xy. So -8 is your x and -11 is your y, and has a y-intercept b of -5. So a little weird that the y-intercept is called b, but that's what it is. So there you go. Your b is equal to -5. And we've been asked to solve for m. All right, let's do our substitution. So we said our y was -11. Equal signs are going to stay steady. M's the thing we don't know. Anytime we have a mystery in math, we use a variable to stand in for that. X, what was our x? Oh, up here, -8. I'm going to put it in parentheses. Since these two things are shoved together, they're multiplying. If you don't put the parentheses, you're in danger of thinking it says m-8 instead of m times -8. And that's going to be plus, we won't lose any operations from above, b, and our b is -5. Okay, now this is looking a little ugly. I don't like it. A lot of advanced students will just skip this step and go straight to how they know we usually write it in math class. Of course, -11 is just -11. It doesn't get any simpler. But usually in algebra, when we're multiplying together a number and a letter, we write the number, the coefficient first, and the letter, the variable second. And then a whole lot of students know, and if you're an advanced student, you should know, so take note of this, that adding a negative number, like adding debt to your account, is the same as taking away that same amount. And so instead of writing plus, minus, or plus negative, I'm just going to write -5. It's the same idea, right? I can add debt into my account, or I can just take out 5, means the same thing. And now this looks easier to solve for M. In fact, this is just a little two-step equation. We can handle two-step equations, right? And why do I say it's a two-step equation? Can you see it, guys? There's my equal sign. There's my variable, and there's 2 numbers hanging out on the same side of the equal sign. There's that -8, and there's that 5. All right, we got to send them packing. So when we're solving, we're working backwards. We're moving things across an equal sign. We do the order of operations backwards as well. So I'm going to move anything adding or subtracting first. And indeed, that's what this 5 is doing with the M. It's subtracting. So I will do the opposite. I will add 5 to get rid of it. Inverses will cancel each other out. Now we can do whatever we want to an equation as long as we keep the 2 sides equal. So I'm going to jump across the equal sign, all the way across, you guys, and do the same operation with the same number. And now let's see what our new equivalent equation will be. Now do this in your calculator, especially if you're newer to algebra, because your brain is going to be so focused on the algebra, you stand a really big chance of messing up with your negatives. -11 plus 5 is -6, and that's going to be equivalent or equal to, don't drop your equal sign or you lose your power, whatever I get on the right-hand side after making this change. So subtracting 5 and adding 5. Those are opposites, right? I go up 5, I go down 5. I'm going to, be right back where I started. And so all I have left on the right-hand side is -8M. Nice. Now, not done yet. M's not alone. Don't make the rookie mistake of adding 8. You guys are advanced level students. That is not an 8 subtracting from M. And I'm going to say that again. That is not an 8 subtracting from M. Yeah, one way to think about that 8 is subtracting, a negative subtraction, but you have to think about what it's doing with M. See how it's shoved up against M? That's a multiplier. It is multiplying with M. If I want to get it away from M, I must divide it away from M, and make sure to divide by exactly what you want to get rid of. Really common error here is to drop the negative. Divide by exactly what you want to get rid of. So don't leave any negative signs hanging out. If you want to get rid of a -8 multiplier, you divide by -8. And again, I can do whatever I want to an equation as long as I keep the 2 sides equal. So I can do that by doing the same operation, divide with the same number, -8. Really common error here is to drop the divide sign for some reason on the other side. I'm not sure why, and then you would accidentally probably put -6 minus 8 and get your answer wrong. Let's take a look at what our new equivalent equation will be. On this right-hand side, multiplying by -8 and dividing by -8 are opposites. They cancel. M is alone, just like I wanted. And that's going to be equivalent or equal to whatever I get on this side. Now, guys, if you type this into your calculator, -6 with the divide by key divided by -8, you get a decimal. Now, there's nothing wrong with this answer, okay? You guys get all tied up in, but what's right? This is a correct answer. The M, or slope, of this line is 0.75. But another good thing to note is that slope is usually expressed as a fraction. Because slope is a ratio of how steep a line is, like how far it goes up to how far it goes over. And so it's easier to see a ratio when you have a fraction, top number, bottom number. That being said, it's not going to matter what form you give your answer in unless it's multiple choice. But the likelihood is it's going to be multiple choice and it's going to be a fraction. So know how to convert. I'm going to just use the quick convert button, and I can see that that is the same as 3/4. And that's how your answer is likely to be expressed. Likely. In some application scenarios, they'll use a decimal for slope, especially when the problem involves money. But most of the time we do like a fraction. Another way you could have gotten that is by using the fraction bar instead of the divide by sign. They mean the same thing, but you could have typed -6 fraction bar -8, enter 3/4. And you might say, hey, Kate, your negative's outside of the fraction. Yeah, it won't make a difference. -6 over -8. Okay, so anyway you type that in, any way you think about it, it's 3/4. 3/4, 75 cents. All right, that is your slope. Nice. Let's look at the next one. Another line contains the point -3, 1. There's my x and my y value, and has a slope m of -2/3. There's my m. Don't forget the fraction. Your calculator will handle the fraction. Find the y-intercept, b. So we're being asked to find b, or solve for b, means the same thing, of the line. All right, well, we have an equation that relates a point xy, its slope m, and the y-intercept b. And mathematicians are so super creative that we call that the slope-intercept equation of a line, because it contains the slope m and the y-intercept b. We already saw on the GED formula sheet that that formula is y equals mx plus b. Let us substitute in what we know. We know our y value, it's 1. Equal signs stay nice and steady. We know our m this time. They told us what our m was, -2/3. Okay. We know our x. These two things are shoved together. The m and the x are shoved together with nothing between them. They are multiplying. So I will make sure I use some kind of signal to myself now that I'm plugging in numbers that I am multiplying. I'm going to multiply by my x value, which according to this point up here is -3. And that is going to be adding with b. Now my goal is to solve for b. In order to do that, I do need to get b alone. Get rid of any numbers that are on the same side of the equal sign as b. However, you might make a mistake if you start that process right away before simplifying. I see some math I know how to do that I can make a little simpler before I begin, and that will make my life easier. -2/3 times -3 is math I know how to do. And you might say, I don't know how to do it, Kate. I hate fractions. And sometimes I don't like you very much either. And that's fine. Okay. We're focused on the algebra, so let's do the fractions in our calculator. Negative, I want to put in a fraction. 2, arrow down, over 3, arrow out. I'll open up my parentheses to put -3, not -3, inside and close it and press enter. And we see that's just 2. Now I still have my plus b. I still have my equal sign nice and steady, and I still have my 1. And now if I want to get b alone, I need to get that 2 to 0 out because it's something adding or subtracting with b. I need to have nothing adding or subtracting with b. And so I will subtract 2, right? 2 minus 2 is 0. I can do whatever I want as long as I do it to both sides of the equal sign so that the left and right hand side remain equal. And let's see what our new equivalent equation will be. I only have 1 and I take away 2. You don't want to do all the hard work, right? And then get a silly little answer because of negatives. I'm just going to do it in my calculator. 1 minus 2 is -1, not +1. A lot of students flip that around. 2, take away 2, zeros out. And of course, if I have 0 plus b, I've got nothing plus b. I just have b. And boom, solved. B's alone. I know what the y-intercept is of this line. It's -1. And by the way, you guys, a slope refers to how steep the line is, but a y-intercept refers to where your line crosses what we call the y-axis on a graph. So that's all that means for those of you who are wondering about my language. So this particular line would cross at -1. All right. Excellent work. And we can see again how these really simple concepts that we are learning apply all over in all different applications and branches of the math that is covered on the GED test. Happy learning.